of 39 is from Moshe Rabbeinu, who gave it over orally. What are the 39 categories that are considered work on Shabbos? However, it alludes to, before Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people about to donate for the Mishkan, he also tells them about Shabbos. And he starts it off with Eila Hadvarim. In the Hebrew letters, each letter has a numerical value. Aleph is 1.
30.
Lamed is 30.
5.
Then Hey equals 5. Gives you a total of 36. So meanwhile, we have Eila Hadvarim. These are the things. So meanwhile, we have number 36. Davar means something. Dvarim is plural. The minimum of plural is how much? 2. And then we have an extra hadvarim, the words. We give this 1. So we're not taking out the numerical value over here. We're just taking the word itself. But davar is 1, varim is 2, hadvarim is 3, equals 3.
What?
3. Davar is 1, varim are 2. Minimum of, when we speak about plural, the minimum of plural is 2, right? So we're up to 2 now.
So we're not doing numerical
No,
value.
not the hadvarim is not numerical value. Again,
So
this
I
is-
have it.
this is not numerical value. This is just the word itself, that it's plural. And also it's the hadvarim, giving us an additional to the plural words. So it equals 3. So 3 plus 36 gives us 39. It only alludes to, this is not the source, but when you say Eila Hadvarim, Moshe Rabbeinu starts off with Shabbos, but Eila Hadvarim, these are the words, which is the 39 categories of work, which in particular, Moshe Rabbeinu gave in detail what are the 39 categories. So this is a part of Torah Shebaal Peh, part of the oral Torah, defining the word malacha, which means an activity that is forbidden on Shabbos. We have on the next page, the bottom page is 339. It's the next page. Also, it's Vayakel Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu gathered the Jewish people, and then it says particularly what not to do is do not ignite any fire on Shabbos, no matter where you may live. So here, the Torah tells us specifically what could not be done on Shabbos, and that is making a fire. Our last class, we spoke about, does making a fire mean that this is something that's a hard work, even in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu? We said when there was at that time something that rubbing a flint, causing a spark, would make a fire. And this was something that we mentioned, a tinderbox. And so just like striking a match or with a flint, that would be a cigarette lighter. Pushing pressure on the flint gives us a spark, that would be the fire. So really making a fire in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu was something that was not a labor, was not something that was hard to do, but the Torah tells us that it could not be done on Shabbos. So here the Torah tells us that it's not the effort that's put into it, but the results that you get, and you're creating something new on Shabbos that cannot be done. So that would be equivalent of switching on a light switch. Cannot be, we make the equivalent of making a fire with some of the electricity that we have, especially the ones that have the tungsten bulbs that would actually make the bulb glow, which is the Torah prohibition. So even though switching the lights is not a big effort, it would go into the category making the fire. We have the, on page 339, we have additional activities that the Torah specifically tells us are forbidden on Shabbos. That is, when it comes to the man. The man was the heavenly food that was given as a gift to the Jewish people as they were traveling in the desert for the 40 years. It was a heavenly food, but they were also told that it also had all, whatever you wanted it to taste like, that's what it tasted like. It was, and they were told on Friday, when they got a double portion, every day until Friday, they were given a portion for the day, a certain amount for each person. That's how much they brought home. No matter how much they gathered, was always the same, as Hashem designated how much each person should be eating each day, for 2 meals. Then when it came on Friday, they got a double portion. They came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, what is the reason for this? And they were told also not to leave anything for the next day. But here they said, Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, this is on top of the page, 339. You have it. It's the last page. The last page before the on this booklet. I will have to number it next time. This is what Hashem has said. Tomorrow is a day of rest, God's holy Shabbos. Bake what you want to bake. Could be on Friday. Cook what you want to cook today. Because on Shabbos, you're not allowed to bake and you're not allowed to cook. So here we have specifically, the Torah tells us that baking and cooking on Shabbos is forbidden. That is why they were told specifically that whatever they do want to have baked or cooked, they have to do that on Friday. We have another commandment. They were told not to gather any man on Shabbos day because there will be no man. But people still were not trusting. They went out to gather food on Shabbos. They found nothing. And Hashem tells them that I gave you food for 2 days on Friday. On the Shabbos, every person must remain in his designated place. One may not leave his home to gather food on Shabbos because you are carrying. So here we have specifically, the Torah tells us that you're not permitted to carry on Shabbos from your home, where you would have your vessels to gather the man, and to go out into the public domain. Do not go out of your designated place to gather food, which is carrying. So here we have specifically the Torah tells us about not to carry. And we also have specifically on the last page of the booklet, we have Sheshes Yomim Tavai V'Yom Hashvi Tishbeis V'Chosh V'Kotz of Tishbeis. You may work the 6 work days, but on Saturday you must stop working, ceasing from all plowing and reaping. Here we have agricultural work that the Torah specifically tells you you're not permitted to plow, you're not allowed to reap, which is to cut that which is growing on Shabbos. So here we have some of the malachas that the Torah specifically tells us that you're not permitted to do. Let's see. I think it should be the last page. No, I think when I gave out the booklets the first time on last week, there was an additional page which I did not have for the others. Oh, you have it, okay. The one I gave out last week is to celebrate Pesach. I think those who have last week's booklet have the last page where it says, concerning the holiday, the first day shall be a holy day. The last day will be a holy day. So we have in Eretz Yisrael, we have each the holiday that we are not permitted to do any activities would be the first and last day. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's 2 days. So in Pesach, in Eretz Yisrael, they have one Seder because only the first day is consecrated. The other days are Chol HaMoed, the intermediary days. So the Torah tells us that on the seventh day you should have no work may be performed on them, but what is eaten by any soul, that alone may be performed for you. So here where the Torah tells us that on Yom Tov, that is not on the Shabbos, you are permitted to do activities that are related to food. And therefore, you are permitted to cook and bake on Yom Tov, if it's not on a Shabbos, from an existing fire. So here we see the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov, as the Torah tells us when it comes to Pesach, and we learn from Pesach to all other holidays, which we are not permitted to do any work, that which is food related, and there are also details in this, that some food-related activities may be done, some food-related activities cannot be done. That which is usually done in a large quantity, not only for one day, but is meant for many days, cannot be done on Yom Tov. That would include the grinding of wheat. When you're going to be grinding, you're not going to be grinding a cupful, but you're going to be grinding sackful. So that cannot be done on Yom Tov. The same would also be with squeezing, making juice. Making juice, usually it refers to wine and olives. When they made wine, they did not make it by the cupful, but rather by the barrelful. The same thing is also with olives. Squeezing of the olives, making it into oil, was not done by the cupful, but rather by the barrelful. So therefore, squeezing the fruit, vegetables for their juice cannot be done on Yom Tov. Yes?
If you start a cup of orange juice.
That's correct. So if you want a cup of orange juice, you have to prepare it before Yom Tov. Again, we're going to be learning in the doors of Shabbos how if it's biblical or it's rabbinic, but anyway, we cannot, on Yom Tov, we cannot squeeze orange for its fresh orange juice, cannot be done, yes.
You know those like things that crush stuff?
So that which is usually done in small quantities could be done. There are rules how it's done. Should it be done with a shinoi? It should be done not in the usual way how it's done on a weekday, to remember that it is Yom Tov. So we do have rules and regulations. You'll be learning this when you learn the rules of Yom Tov. I just want to bring it up since Yom Tov is coming up. We're coming to Rosh Hashanah, we're coming to Sukkot. I do want to make you aware that there are certain that which is permissible when it comes to cooking and baking. Also, you are permitted on Yom Tov, when it's not a Shabbos, to carry outdoors things that are permissible to be handled. So the restriction of carrying is only for Shabbos and Yom Kippur, but for Yom Tov, there is no restriction for carrying things that are needed for Yom Tov. So that is permissible. So we have carrying is permissible. Extending a fire from an existing fire is also permissible. You're not allowed to start the fire, but if there's one fire already, so you are permitted to extend the fire from one burning item and lighting something from it. And that would also be that when we're going to be lighting the candles the second night of Yom Tov, second night of Rosh Hashanah, second night of Sukkot. How do we light the candles? You are permitted to light the candles, but you have to have it from an existing fire. Usually, people will have a 48-hour candle that burns for the 48 hours, and therefore you could use that to light your Yom Tov lights. When Yom Kippur is the same as Shabbos, it's called Shabbos Shabboson, a Shabbos of Shabbos. So all forbidden activities that are forbidden on Shabbos, the same applies to Yom Kippur as well. But the other holidays have their own rules that you're permitted to carry. So that would be also cooking on Yom Tov. You are permitted to cook for that day. If it is something that enhances the food, you're allowed to put in as many portions as you want. So therefore, if you're making a soup and you would like to have it for 2 days, you want to have chickens in the cooking chicken in the soup or vegetables. So you are permitted to put in a large amount on the first day that you're going to be cooking, even though you know that you're not going to be eating it all. You do want to have it for the second day's meal. But since you're cooking something that enhances the food that you're eating on the first day, so that would be permissible. So therefore, soup that has more vegetables, more chicken, more meat is a better tasting soup. So you're allowed to add all of these ingredients on the first day, even though you know that you're going to be using the remainder of the second day. However, if it's an item that is not improved by adding more, then you're restricted only to make it enough as is needed for the first day, but being, you could do it in, not to skimp on each portion. You could make it that people could have doubles or triples if they want to have so. But as long as you don't specifically make it for the second day, the example would be if you're making schnitzels. So adding more schnitzels to the frying pan does not enhance the schnitzels that are frying or baking. So then you can only make the amount that you think will be needed. You're anticipating guests, you can make for the guests, you can make but only specifically what you think will be used for the first day. If there are leftovers, then you are permitted to use the second day. Same thing is also making a salad. Usually adding more ingredients to the salad does not enhance the salad. Yes, no, it's probably not. So depends what kind of salad you're making. Okay, but a salad that is not enhanced by adding more ingredients, then you only make them they use as many ingredients that they need for the first day. And you can give doubles. You can anticipate for that as well. You don't have to make it exactly, for the exact, but you should not do it specifically for the second day as well. If there are leftovers, then that is fine. Okay, so that's we're not going to the halachas of Yom Tov. I just want to bring it up as we're so here the Torah tells us we find that. I just wanted to find the source that we have that when it comes to Pesach. So the Torah tells us no work may be performed on them, but what is eaten by any soul, that alone may be performed, but for you, that can be done on Yom Tov. If it's not on the Shabbos or not on Yom Tov. We also have the Ten Commandments are repeated twice in the Torah. First time it starts off with Zochor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay, remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. The second time it starts off with Shomor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay. Shomor means to guard. That is by not doing any melacha. So the Ten Commandments begins with the first time it's written in the Torah, it says Zochor Hashem Shabbos L'Kadshay. Remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. Could I write in the script, or is it? Yes. Before, which is to remember there here. So the first 10 Commandments, as written in the Torah, starts off with Zochor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay. Remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. The second time it's written in Veschanan, it says Shomor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay, guard the Shabbos day to keep it holy. So this is not to do any malacha. This is to make Kiddush. Remember that it's Shabbos. So which one was it? How did the Ten Commandments begin? Was it Zochor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay or Shomor Shem Shabbos L'Kadshay? So which one was it? And the answer is Friday night we say in Lichadodi, what do we say? Zochor v'Shomor b'dibur echad. It was said simultaneously to remember the Shabbos day and to guard the Shabbos day were said in one utterance. Only Hashem could do that. Say in one time, we should be able to hear and distinct both of them at the same time as it's being said, Zochor and Shomor, both of them being said at the same time. So we have in the Ten Commandments the sanctity of Shabbos, and also to keep the Shabbos holy by refraining from doing the 39 categories of activities. Any questions on this? Okay, we go now to the second booklet. Okay, we'd like to okay, thank you. Around.
Do we have more?
Sure. Okay. Do we need more?
Two.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, this booklet enumerates all 39 categories of works and also gives us the foundation why we have some rabbinic restrictions as well. So, beginning on page 40, this is taken from the book of Shabbos, that's no longer in print. So we took excerpts of this book. At page 40, that's the first page. So it says that there is a prohibition, a negative commandment. On the seventh day of Shabbos, is a Shabbos to your God. You may not do any melacha. And also it says you should rest on the seventh day. And also we have a definition of what rest means. Now the 39 categories, we turn to the next page, page 41. So they come in different groupings. There are 39 categories that are a part of the building of the Mishkan, and there were different activities that were needed to produce different results. So we have the production of dye. Dye was used to color the different wool material that was used for the curtains in the Mishkan and as the covering for the Mishkan. To produce dye, they were made from different herbs and different plants. So the first 11 steps of the 39 categories is the production of dye, starting with the preparing the earth for planting of the different herbs and plants that produce the dye. And botanical gardens, you could find a place in where they have actually the different plants that are used for dyes, and they tell you which colors you will get from those plants. So the dye was actually produced in the Midbar. So how did you get plants in the desert? How did that happen? Either that, or also you were also able to plant in the desert as well. When the Jewish people came to Har Sinai, came to Mount Sinai, Hashem made a miracle that by Har Sinai, it blossomed and bloomed. There was beautiful flowers. It was a beautiful surrounding. While they were camped at Mount Sinai, it was just not a desert atmosphere, but rather a very lush, beautiful plants. Therefore, we also, one of the minhagim is to bring flowers into our homes on Shavuos for the holiday of the giving of the Torah as a connection to that Har Sinai were blossomed and bloomed, and we bring the flowers into our homes. It's interesting that in the Medrash and Shir HaShirim, the Medrash tells us One of the reasons why Hashem created flowers was to enhance the Shabbos home. So bringing flowers to the home for Shabbos is something that enhances the Shabbos. That is also a part of the reason why Hashem created flowers to begin with, to enhance the homes for Shabbos. So the first 11 steps are a part of the production of dye. However, in the Mishnah, it speaks about these 11 steps not in producing dye, but rather in making bread. The reason is the Mishnah was something that was meant to be used, that the people are accustomed to doing. And therefore, most people do not produce dye. Most people did bake challah. And therefore, all 11 steps that are made as production of dye are also made in the production of bread. And therefore, in the Mishnah, we're going to be speaking about not the dyes, but rather how bread is made. That would be plowing and planting and reaping and all the other steps that come along with it. So the first 11 are connected to production of dye. Then we have the production of wool material. So here we have, so let's go through the first 11 steps. This is planting and preparing the earth for planting and cutting from its place of growth, gathering together in piles, and then threshing, then winnowing, throwing it into the wind to take away the chaff, then separating the grain from the stones which it's mixed, which is borer, then grinding, breaking something into tiny parts, then sifting the flour, and then lisham, combining the particles into one mass, which is taking flour and water, combining it and making it into a dough, and then afia, this is baking, which is putting it into baking it by fire. So that's the first 11, production of dye and also production of bread. The next group is the preparing of wool yarn. So that would include the shearing of wool from an animal. Then the wool would be washed. So here we have washing. Then separating the fibers, then dyeing the wool, then spinning the threads, then preparing the loom, and then weaving, and then removing the cloth from the loom, and then tying knots and untying, and then sewing the cloth together and carrying wherever it gets a hole that needs repair. That's the next set. So that is the weaving, starting the preparation of wool and the weaving of the wool and making the curtains. Then we have the next is you had the...
Wait, sorry. Is that 12 to 24?
That would be 12 to 24.
It's
Yes.
for the
It's making the yarn and weaving and making cloth and attaching them together by sewing them together.
This is for the Mishkan, right?
That's all the Mishkan, right? You had the curtains in the Mishkan, the coverings of the Mishkan were made of wool. Also, one of the coverings of the Mishkan also had another covering, which was made of ram's hide and also of a special animal that is described as a unicorn. A one-horned kosher animal that was very large. It was a creation that Hashem created specifically so it could be used for the Mishkan. It was never again found because it's only a species that was created specially. And once it was used for the Mishkan, we no longer have that. So we do have this unicorn.
Did they use the horn or the animal for the top?
It was a kosher animal, and they use the covering. They use the covering for the Mishkan.
I wonder if they use that horn also.
But it does not say what was
Maybe
done.
they made a one for the Torah.
So here we have capturing. First, it had to be captured. So we have number 25 is capturing it. Then it was slaughtered, shchita. Then the animal was skinned. Then working leather so it could be made fit for use. Smoothing the leather, removing the hair. And then it had to be also shaped. So marking the lines and then actually cutting the leather to a specific size. So from 25 through 31 is preparation of leather. When we're going to be learning this, we will learn how it applies to us. We do not make leather, but it is all the details of this is something that is on a daily basis that we do come in contact with. So that's something that we're going to be covering in our class. Then we have writing and erasing, which was when they made the boards and they assembled it, as it was assembled the first time, it also had to be in the same order. In all other times when they were traveling, they would dismantle it, and then when they came to the place of rest, they would assemble it again. They wanted to have it. It was necessary to have it in the same order. Whatever is in Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holies, remained in that place. Whatever was on the northern side, next to the shulchan, the table with the showbread was always on the northern side. Whatever was on the southern side with the menorah, according to how people donated, that's where their donations went to be used. And therefore, they wrote an aleph with two boards. They knew that the aleph and aleph goes together. The other side had a base, and the next one had a base. They knew base and base goes together. In case they didn't write it well, they had to erase it. So we have writing and erasing also as a part of the Mishkan. Then we have, when it was demolished as a building, erecting as a building, and then taking it apart, all of this is also done in the Mishkan. They built it, erected, and then they had to take it apart when they were ready to travel. Then you have number 36 is igniting a fire, and extinguishing a fire. They had to make coals, so they'd be able to, for the cooking of the dye. Then you have Makbeh Padish, the finishing touches. Then the last one, number 39, is Hitzah, moving an object from one domain to the other. That we have is biblical. The Torah tells us specifically, do not go out on the Shabbos day to gather the man, because you're not allowed to carry the vessels from your home to the public domain. So these are the 39 categories, and we will be learning how it applies to us on a regular basis. Okay, we will be continuing in this booklet, which will also tell us about the rabbinic prohibitions and why they were made. And we're going to have also one class before we start this also. Where do we get that the rabbis should make safeguards to our laws? What gives them the authority? So we're going to have one paper on that as well. Any questions on this? So let me just go through again the names on the attendance so I could identify you. Let me see. So Chana Bera, okay. Chaya Atkins, okay. Rachel Tahir, Rachel, okay. Rivka, no. Rivka Ram, okay. Rachel O'Connor, and Chana, Hedva, and Mrs. Shapiro. Okay, have a wonderful Shabbos, and this Shabbos is going to be Shabbos Slichos. So we should all have a Silach in the table, Shem Tov and the Sukkah here. We still will have a class before Rosh Hashanah yet, so we have one more class, and I think that's going to be our preparation. That following the Yom Tov, we'll be able to actually go to our book and do the Malchus. How do we close our
Bye, Zoom.